Hey YouTubers, Rob here with another Commodore 64 game. This time we're looking at Uridium, an absolute classic I think to start with. I wasn't planning to do this one now, but after I showed Psycastria I thought it'd be good to and making a lot of comparisons to it, I thought it'd be good to demo it last. Uridium was developed in 1986 by Graftgold and was published by Hewson, and it's pretty much one of the examples of how I think a game can really stand up over time. Uridium got ported to a lot of platforms, and none of them really kept the pace of the C64 original. So there's a pretty basic front end here, and part of that I think actually works to its advantage. Is, you've just got this fairly basic text title screen, and then you get the scroller. Seeing this on a real C64 on the tally for the first time was amazing. Just giant text, smoothly scrolling. Like, on a real machine, it's scrolling properly at 50 frames a second, and it's incredible. So we'll dive in. You get a little tally sequence, you get a little launch sequence. I always like this, and then you come in. So the first thing, we're going to play comparisons. I can't help but avoid that. So the first thing I love is the contrast here. You've got all the enemies using white, yellow. They're using shades that allow them to stand out a lot more against the background. And then there are those. Those are the mines. They're evil. Now, if you have, they get spawned from those ports, those flashing ports. And there's two of them. And I just got taken out by one. Those mines will spawn from flashing points if you stay in an area too long. So you need to sort of not be too slow around. Basic idea here with Uridium is you strafe the surface of these mega dreadnoughts. Each one is named after it. The basic plot is the mysterious force is building 15 there, each based on a particular element. So this one is gold? No, not gold. Come on. Zinc. So the idea is you need to strafe them, take out targets. And when you get the land now message, you find the clear runway, land, and now you basically set to light up this little sequence. The idea is you just hit on the score and you keep going up the chart. And there you go. And the last number I got, which is 3,400, is what I get. And now the ship blows up, we'll move on to the next stage. 15 stages in all. And then you have to watch the sequence. One of the things I love in this sequence is that if you still have targets left on the ground, you can potentially destroy them. Except by the time the scroll catches up. So now we're on stage 2. I made it to stage 3 earlier. I used to make it a little further. But I was never good enough to make it all the way to the end. It is especially with enemies like that. By comparison, it's a lot fairer than Psycastria in the sense that you get the little warning tone that an enemy's approaching. And you also get lives more often. To get an extra life is 10,000 points, and that's every 10,000 points. Which means you don't have to worry as much. There's a run. And the other thing is the stages are just so much shorter. Because it's more time-based than because it's more about surviving until you're prompted to land rather than actually completing an objective, it becomes a lot more playable. So in this case, how done stage 2. There was actually an enhanced, again, much like with some of the other games that Graftgold put out, there was an enhanced version called Uridium Plus that actually got rid of the requirement that you had to wait. You could actually, if you were able to get to the runway quick enough, you could just land, which I thought was an actual interesting touch. So now we've completed lead, which is stage 2. And the controls themselves are responsive, amazingly responsive. And you don't have to worry about like fake altitude or anything. Your little ship, the Manta, stays at a fixed height, and you just duck. Controls are, except if you're silly and bump into a wall. Left and right either accelerate or slow down. When you slow down beyond like your stall speed, you then do that really cool roll maneuver. Fire button shoots, obviously, up and down, move up and down the screen. If you hold the fire button down, and then pull up or down, you can do a half roll. And that move is essential in later levels, as you will come to a stage point where you need to. Oh, game over. Game over. Alright, you do that half roll maneuver, as there are some very tricky wall dodges you have to do. And I like that the fact is that the challenge comes from the environment. The waves are a threat, but they're not a major threat. You know, you don't feel complete and utterly cheated unless you're playing sillily, unless you're playing terribly like I am. You want to, when it comes to like the enemy formations, you do want to destroy them because, besides getting points, and points gives you extra lives, you also get an additional bonus at the end. You would have seen it when I'd completed the stages, the formation destruction bonus. Every formation you completely destroy, you get extra points for, so it's always a good thing to try and pull it out. Arrgh, the mines, up mines. There we go. Curses. Sometimes you think you get much higher destruct bonus than you do. So here we are, taking out first ship again. As I said, like, when I think about everything that this game does right, it does everything right. I can't think of really anything that it does wrong. It's excellently presented, the graphics are smooth, I've never seen slowdown, I've never seen flicker. The graphics are clear, I mean, I feel that, I always feel like I'm in control. You know, a lot of poorer games, you know, you usually don't feel in control, especially when the game is frantic as this. I would love auto-fire support, but I think the fact that you've got... the fact that you've got the auto-fire, you know, the hold-down fire to turn, to bank, kind of does make that a little less feasible. We got an extra life, thank goodness. Something that I love, but also drives me nuts, is the fact there's no real safe spots. You know, when you're trying to kill a bit of time before you're allowed to land, you're always gonna run to some point where there's mines. There we go. That's what I love about this game. It's such a challenge and such well balanced that curses. That it feels really tense. There's a lot of tension in what you're doing in, you know, surviving the wave, learning the ships, and you have to learn the ships to be able to be prepared, as there are some very tricky walls that you need to avoid in later levels. But it takes that essence of, you know, pure Twitch gaming and is just refined so incredibly well. And it's nice and compact. I mean, I really can't find a bad thing to say about this game. I mean, my other real... It's... Yeah, and I think that most part I actually do prefer it a little more over its actual sequel, which came out in the Amiga. The graphics are actually a little clearer here because they're just a simpler art style. Whereas, you know, by the early 90s on a 16-bit, you've got to do a lot more, and I feel it may have impacted somewhat. That was close. Close. We're at the runway now. Oh, that was close. Just in time. Don't. Something to earn another extra life. Sometimes you think you take out a formation and it turns out you haven't. So close. I guess it's... Ooh. So that is Uridium. It's an amazing shooter that pretty much just uses the C64 to such excellent capabilities. It's a game I strongly recommend, and I strongly recommend you check it out and have a play. If you have to do it only on the C64. I think I'm going to leave it here. That's pretty much a wrap. I hope you enjoyed the video. I look forward to bringing you another C64 game next time.